Welcome to the Chronicles of a Cheating Wife channel. A new story every day. Don't forget to subscribe. Dear friends, this story is one of my all-time favorites, so you might have heard it before. Nevertheless, I derive immense pleasure from revisiting and retelling it every time. So, let's begin. Alex was engrossed in analyzing new test data, a tedious task that formed the core of his team's efforts on the test vehicle over the past month. Reluctantly, he delved into correlating and tabulating the information for further analysis. His concentration was interrupted by the chirping of his phone, indicating a new text message. Glancing at the screen, he noted the notification but paid no attention to the sender's name. Only after several minutes during a momentary break in his work did he glance up from his monitor. Curiosity piqued, he reached for his phone and inspected the notification. The number wasn't saved in his contacts, and though the area code was local, it didn't ring a bell. Initially tempted to dismiss it as spam, he hesitated, considering the possibility that it might be from a teammate whose number he hadn't yet saved. He clicked on the text, and a message appeared on the screen. At first, he was confused. Who could have sent him this image? But there was an intimate photo on his phone. He read the message. "Look carefully. You still have time. Bradley, 6 p.m. He reread it again. He thought about it for a moment and chuckled slightly. It wasn't often they got the wrong number to send pictures like that. He was about to delete the message when he looked at the photo again, and his heart nearly stopped. One detail in the photograph struck him. There was a mole on the left leg of the girl in the picture. The tiny mole belonged to Candy, his wife, with whom he had lived for the past 6 years. He stared again, disbelieving, looking for anything that might disprove what he'd seen with his own eyes. But the closer he looked, the more convinced he became that it was his wife. Upon rereading the note, he realized it mentioned Bradley's, a local pub unfamiliar to him and Candy. It was situated in the neighboring town. But why would Candy be at Bradley's at 6 p.m. when she was en route to Boston? Her team was diligently preparing a crucial proposal, with the pitch scheduled for Monday afternoon. Today was the day the entire team flew in to finalize preparations, with a comprehensive dress rehearsal set for Sunday. As one of the principal figures, Candy's presence for preparation was a given. Checking the time, it was 5:15 p.m. Candy's flight was due to land in Boston at 4:30. Typically, she would call upon arrival, but it was reasonable to assume she was occupied with rounding up the team and their equipment, making their way to the hotel. He debated whether to call her but opted to respond to the text message first. His reply wasn't particularly inventive. "Who is this? How did you obtain this photo? Am I expected to meet you at Bradley's?" As he packed up for the day, he made a decision. He would go to Bradley's. He needed answers, and he was determined to get them one way or another. He sent a casual text to Candy. "How was the flight? I'm heading out for a bite. Give a call when you're free." His aim was to maintain a relaxed demeanor while attempting to gather more information. As he strolled towards his car, anticipating a response from Candy, his phone chimed once more. Assuming it was Candy, he swiftly checked his phone, only to find it was a reply from the mysterious sender. "I'll be there, but I'm sure you will find someone more interesting than me there." His mind began to race. Opening the Maps app on his phone, he quickened his pace towards his car. Bradley's was a 30-minute drive away, and it was already 5:40. He calculated that he would arrive shortly after 6 p.m., uncertain of the significance of timing. He opted to head directly to Bradley's, hoping to be punctual for whoever the sender implied he would find interesting. During the ride, his phone chirped once more. This time, it was a message from Candy. "Crazy time with the team. Call you later before bed. Love you." He didn't dwell on it, knowing they would catch up later. His focus was now on the impending meeting at Bradley's and unraveling how the sender acquired such intimate knowledge about his wife. His heart raced as he pulled into the parking lot at 6:12. The sender hadn't provided any clues about who he was supposed to meet, leading him to assume that the individual must know him and would initiate contact. However, It was the cryptic mention of someone more interesting being present that heightened his apprehension. The sender seemed privy to information he didn't possess, leaving him feeling like he was walking into a trap with no alternative method of uncovering the truth. It was a picture that turned him upside down inside. He trusted her completely, and their life together was perfect, at least he thought so. But there was only one way someone could have gotten a picture like that. And he was going to find out in about 5 minutes, and the thought of the finality of that answer horrified him. Entering the pub, Alex's eyes adjusted to the dimmer lighting. Unfamiliar with the establishment, he paused by the entrance, surveying the surroundings. A spacious dining area lay ahead, while a bar was situated to his left. Opting for the bar, he settled onto a stool at the end. The bartender, just finishing an order for a well-dressed patron, approached Alex to take his order. Requesting a draft, Alex glanced back towards the dining area. His attention was drawn to a man who had just taken his drink order and was now crossing the room towards a table filled with jovial individuals. It was then that he noticed what the mysterious texter had hinted at. Seated at the table, receiving a drink from the well-dressed man, was Candy, adorned in her little black dress and pearls, radiating confidence and charm. Acting on autopilot, Alex rose from his seat and made his way towards the table where Candy sat. As he approached, Candy's expression shifted from a warm smile to one of wide-eyed fear. Unperturbed, Alex continued his advance. When he reached the table, he seized a handful of the well-dressed man's hair with his left hand, yanking him forcefully backward. The man, losing his balance and spilling his drinks, stumbled backward, emitting cries of pain. As Alex pulled him past, he released his grip and prepared to deliver a punch with his right hand, only to find the man tumbling out of reach, landing on the floor in a disheveled heap. Recognizing him, Alex issued a stern command. "Don't get up, Ben." "I mean it." Ben, previously well-dressed but now soaked in drink and crumpled on the floor, nodded silently, making no attempt to rise or speak. Alex glanced back at Candy, noting the sudden hush that had fallen over the table. Recognizing familiar faces among the group, all part of Candy's team, he couldn't help but muse. I guess team loyalty outweighs infidelity. Yet, amidst the silent crowd, he sensed one person who had chosen to divulge the truth to him. Briefly considering identifying this individual, he swiftly dismissed the notion as futile. "I'm going home. If there's any hope of salvaging our marriage, you'll come with me now," he declared, his gaze fixed on Candy. She nodded in response, beginning to rise, but he raised his hand to forestall her. "Give me a moment before you follow," he added before turning to leave. Before departing, he directed his attention to Leona Wilson, seated beside Vicky Thornton. "Leona, does Zach believe you're in Boston too?" "Vicky, is Maria under the same impression?" Their silence spoke volumes, unable to meet his gaze or answer his probing inquiry. The journey home passed in a blur, Alex finding himself in his driveway before fully registering his surroundings. Inside, he retrieved a beer from the fridge and settled into the living room. Zach Wilson and Maria Thornton were familiar names, but the other two couples were strangers to him. Reflecting on the evening's revelations, he debated reaching out to Vicky or Maria, but ultimately decided against it, unsure of what to say and feeling a pang of betrayal from their apparent deceit. Instead, he opted to send them a brief text, subtly hinting at his awareness. "Just heard from Candy that team travel plans seem to have changed. Might be worth giving her a call for an update." With that, he left them to choose whether to investigate further, satisfied that he had acted with honesty and integrity. About 20 minutes later, the sound of the garage door opening signaled Candy's return home. Alex remained seated in the living room, waiting her arrival. She entered, still clad in her little black dress, but now without shoes or jewelry. Taking the seat across from him on the sofa, Candy appeared composed. Alex chose to maintain silence, recognizing its potency in fostering dialogue. He was determined to let the weight of the quiet linger until Candy was ready to speak. It didn't take long for Candy to break the silence. "It's not what you think," she began, but Alex raised a hand, signaling for her to stop. "You have no idea what I think about what happened tonight." Alex replied evenly, "I'm not interested in a lengthy explanation. As engineers, we both understand that why questions often lack definitive answers. Instead, let's start with the basics. How long has this been going on? How many times? How frequently? Do our friends know, aside from those involved tonight? Am I known as your cuckold among our colleagues and friends?" "No, Alex, it's not like that at all," Candy interjected. "The team's travel plans got disrupted, and Ben suggested we stay in town for a down day before resuming our work. I didn't see the whole team there, or was everyone else?" Alex inquired. "When we received the update, some of the team decided to stay home for another night and join us at the airport tomorrow," Candy confessed. "But you chose to deceive me," he asserted. "You seemed rather cozy with Ben. Is there anything going on between the star engineer and the Wonderkind program manager that you'd like to disclose?" "Well, for starters, Ben managed to persuade the owners at Bradley's not to press charges," she replied, her tone upbeat. His eyes widened in disbelief at her sense of loyalty. "I couldn't care less about your friend. If he hadn't tripped over himself, I might have rearranged his nose. The jury's still out on that, by the way," Alex retorted, a half-smile creeping onto his face. "Let him press charges. I've spent a night in jail before. It doesn't faze me. Besides, it might make for interesting testimony," he added, his tone laced with irony. "Do you love him?" Candy fell silent for a moment, gathering her thoughts. The weight of the silence hung heavy in the air, as Alex's mind raced to fill the void. "He's not my friend. There's absolutely nothing between us. Yes, I should have informed you about the change in travel plans, but it seemed insignificant whether I was in town or in Boston. You weren't expecting me, and I was still committed to the team. We were simply grabbing a meal before retiring to our rooms. There was no justification for your behavior. He was merely fetching drinks." "You embarrassed me in front of my team," she exclaimed, her tone shifting to one of defiance as she attempted to deflect and assert control. He retrieved his phone and pulled up the incriminating text, sliding it across the coffee table to her. The expression on her face betrayed recognition. She knew there was no way to deny it. As she began to speak again, her tone lacked the earlier bluster. "Alex, our team is," she hesitated, searching for the right words, "very close-knit in many ways. Most of us," she trailed off, struggling to articulate her explanation. "We have a small group that meets regularly. They were all at Bradley's. We were the ones shouldering the bulk of the work for the proposal. You know how much time I've been devoting to preparing our pitch. I'm not exactly sure how it all started. It was sometime after Ben took over as PM. We worked closely together, and I was drawn to him. And things just evolved," Candy confessed. "No whys," he interjected firmly. "Cheating doesn't simply happen. Clothes don't just come off. There are conscious decisions involved, and we both know that. So please don't insult my intelligence." "So it's been nearly 6 months," he mused, answering one of his own questions. "Around the time Ben joined the team, right?" She nodded in confirmation. "The team," he began again, pausing to find the right words. "You all," he let the sentence trail off, leaving the implication hanging in the air. She nodded once more. "And Ben suggested this was beneficial for fostering trust and team dynamics. Is that how he convinced all of you to engage in this consortium?" He questioned pointedly. "Now you're being crude. It's more than that. I feel a deep connection to Ben and the team, more than ever before," Candy retorted, her bravado resurfacing. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this conversation was headed for a turbulent conclusion. "Unfortunately, there might be some changes coming to your team," Alex disclosed. "What have you done?" Candy gasped. "Alex, involving anyone else will only cause more harm. Let them deal with their own choices. We need to focus on us." Candy, you must understand that I can't remain silent and be complicit. I care about Vicky and Maria. Frankly, I feel more favorable towards them than I do towards Leona and Zach right now, he explained. I messaged them about the altered travel plans. How your friends respond to their spouses, and how their spouses handle those responses is entirely their concern. I can live with my decision. Alex, we have the most productive team in the history of Cromerica Incorporated. She was almost yelling at me. And you've been profitable too, mister. Just because we had team planning meetings on Wednesdays doesn't mean you missed out on everything. I never denied you access to me when you needed it, so I slept with my team a little earlier. You never knew. And that picture you showed me, do you want to know about that? Now she was mocking me. It was right after Ben and I slept together. And yes, Lyanna was there too. If you don't know about it, then it didn't happen, right? I froze in place, listening to the extent of the deception and the depths of my ignorance. So now, just because you're aware, just because your fragile ego is bruised, you're willing to throw away everything my team and I have achieved, Candy hissed, her anger escalating with each word. Her fury was contagious. Alex felt his heart racing as Candy passionately defended her team's questionable dynamic, fueling his own growing resentment. For a brief moment during his drive home from Bradley's, he entertained the idea that perhaps he could forgive a one-time transgression with Ben. But that thought had been swiftly extinguished in a bloody demise. He didn't need to hear anymore. He didn't want to hear anymore. Yet Candy persisted. No, we won't let you off the hook that easily. You're going to text Vicky and Maria and tell them that you heard from me, and we were stuck in Atlanta, but have arrangements for the morning. That's the story Leona and Zach will stick to, and you're going to support it. Damn it, she shouted. There's millions at stake in this deal, and your grievances mean nothing. Send the text, and then we can discuss how to proceed. How to proceed? Alex countered, his own voice rising in anger. There's no proceeding from this. You're leaving. Now, you and your twisted team and your ringleader Ben can carry on however you please. We're finished. I'll contact a lawyer this week to get the ball rolling. It's a straightforward 50-50 split. You keep your retirement, and I'll keep mine, Alex declared. But go. You have reservations in town. Use them. Head off to Boston, and notch up another victory for you and your team. Alex, please send those texts, Candy implored, her voice softer, more pleading. If we lose Lyanna or Zach before the presentation, the company stands to lose millions. We could miss out on tens, maybe hundreds of thousands in commissions and bonuses. Just imagine all the places we could travel together with that kind of money. Just you and me. Forget about this and take me back. Please, Alex, don't let some insignificant fling derail our future. Ben says I'm on the fast track to executive status. All I have to do is maintain our level of productivity for a few more years. Don't you want that for me? For us? She pleaded. Candy, just go. Alex managed to utter before he was struck hard in the back, knocking the wind out of him as he collapsed to the floor with a knee pressed into his back. Don't hurt him. Too badly, Candy instructed. So, the jury's still out on breaking my nose, huh? Ben taunted, leaning down to get in Alex's face as he lay pinned on the floor. Candy must have a transmitter, Alex thought bitterly. So now I know whose team she's playing for. We'll see whose nose gets broken, Ben smirked. Take his phone and send those texts for him. We don't have time for this nonsense. Someone pulled him up from the floor, but it was evident that only one person was responsible. Alex deliberately feigned injury, forcing his captor to exert considerable effort in lifting him. This provided him with crucial information. His assailant was evidently an office type, weak and wheezing as he struggled to hoist Alex to his feet. As Alex regained his breath after being blindsided, he focused on regaining his composure and strategizing his next move. Unlike Ben and his team of polished salespeople, Alex's team operated in the field alongside the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, SOAR, out of Fort Campbell, KLI. While his group of engineers might not have matched the elite status of the 160th, they had earned respect by working closely with the crews during test missions. They were invited to participate in physically demanding training sessions under the guidance of seasoned professionals flown in specifically for the purpose. If these men showed up, it usually meant trouble for someone and not the kind one walked away from. Alex and his team developed specialized equipment to facilitate insertion and extraction in high-risk environments. They took pride in knowing their modifications played a vital role in mission success and the safe return of everyone involved. Among the 160th crew, the most respected figure was Master Surgeon, MSGT, Terry Baker. MSGT Baker was a legend in his field, commanding respect from all ranks, from boots to bird colonels. He was renowned for his unwavering commitment to ensuring the safety of his men and had earned his reputation during a mission in Colombia. During an ambush by the Ferrer Sea, MSGT Baker instructed a young lieutenant to stick close. When the LT was injured in the firefight, the medic pronounced him dead. "He's gone, Top," the medic reported, but MSGT Baker refused to accept it and ensured the LT was evacuated safely, embodying the motto of never leaving anyone behind. Baker knelt down and lifted him into a fireman's carry. "He's gone, Top," the medic reiterated. "That may be," Baker replied calmly, "but he's still coming home with us." The medic regarded him with disbelief. With more than 5 kilometers to trek back to the LZ through dense forest, their odds of returning unscathed were slim. Carrying a deceased comrade only compounded their challenges. The MSGT seemed to read the medic's thoughts. "I'd do the same for you, Zach," he reassured the medic. "Stay close in case I need you." What ensued would become the stuff of legend. Upon their return to the base, the doctor met them as the helicopter touched down. The medic informed the doctor that the lieutenant had succumbed to his injuries. The doctor nodded in understanding and retrieved a penlight from his pocket. The medic watched in astonishment as the supposedly deceased lieutenant's pupils contracted under the harsh beam of the penlight. "Care to revise your diagnosis, doctor?" the doc asked the medic as they hurried the miraculously revived lieutenant into surgery. Baker was one of those timeless individuals seemingly immune to the passage of time. He spoke sparingly, but his words carried weight, commanding attention from all. He was a relic of a bygone era, in stark contrast to the prevailing ethos of disposability. Handcrafted and irreplaceable, he took a particular interest in Alex and his team. During the downtime between missions, the MSGT expressed his gratitude by imparting basic yet effective hand-to-hand defensive techniques to Alex and his team. "I understand that the biggest threat you're likely to encounter is a jammed copier or a nasty paper cut, but if you remain in this line of work, you may find yourself traveling to some colorful places," MSG Baker explained to the group. "So, if you happen to encounter one of the locals, you'll have something useful to fall back on. Let's just hope a paper cut is the scariest thing you'll ever face." As Alex regained control of his breathing, he allowed himself to slump back into the grasp of his captor, feigning restraint. He recalled the fighting techniques taught by MSGT Baker. "There may be situations where you feel helpless, and all you can do is endure the beating," the MSGT had advised. "But remember, even when you're on the receiving end, you can still fight back. You just need to outsmart your attacker." With this lesson in mind, Alex leaned back into his captor, appearing to passively resist, gradually wearing down the lone man's strength. "Give me the phone, Alex," Ben said, looking him straight in the eye. "Look, now you know I slept with your wife. Alex, me and all the guys on the team have done it probably more times than you. Forget the macho thing, Alex. You're just another wussy nerd. Do as we ask and maybe you can get Candy back when the team stops using her." Alex remained silent as Ben took pleasure in humiliating him, coercing him to comply with his demands. "Where is it, Alex?" Ben demanded, spotting the outline of the phone in Alex's shirt pocket. "Ah, there it is," he remarked, reaching for it with his right hand. In a swift move, Alex drove his right heel back, connecting with his captor's shin, and then dragging it down until it collided with his Gucci loafer-clad toes. Flexing his arms, Alex broke free from Ben's grip, causing him to yelp in pain and collapse under the weight of his injured leg. Ben's eyes widened in recognition as Alex executed the move taught by the MSGT. With precision, Alex thrust his right arm straight out, rolling his shoulder as he drove his curled fist into the center of Ben's face with maximum force. The sound of breaking bone echoed as blood gushed from Ben's nose, sending him crashing to the floor. Turning to face his assailant, Alex discovered it was Zach lying on the ground, holding his injured leg and whimpering. "I think you broke my foot," Zach complained. Alex responded by stomping down hard on his foot, eliciting a scream of agony. "That should remove all doubt," Alex retorted. Returning his attention to Ben, who was now on the floor, Alex observed him struggling to his knees with both hands covering his injured face. Leaning close, Alex whispered in his ear, "Looks like your nose took the hit, Ben. I'm just not willing to take one for the team," before delivering a final blow to his temple, rendering Ben unconscious, with his adrenaline surging and his breaths ragged. Alex scanned the living room for Candy. Suddenly, he felt a jarring impact to the middle of his back and the base of his neck, sending him down to one knee. Swiftly, he spun to confront the new threat, only to find Candy wielding a cast-iron skillet. Her swing missed its mark, delivering only a glancing blow to Alex. Rising to his feet, he roughly wrested the pan from her hand. "Alex, we can still make it work," Candy pleaded. "Think of all the money you'll be throwing away. I'll put an end to all the cheating. I'll stop them. I promise. It'll just be you and me, like old times." "Alex," as he rubbed the back of his head with his left hand. Alex looked at Candy, stunned by how quickly she shifted from one demeanor to another. He couldn't help but think of the alien in John Carpenter's The Thing, shape-shifting in response to each new challenge. A wry smile crossed his lips at the comparison. Mistaking his smile for agreement, Candy moved in to embrace Alex. Reacting swiftly, he dropped his left hand from his neck to hold her back. Then, after a moment's consideration, he brought his right hand up and delivered a sharp blow to her nose, not enough to render her unconscious, but sufficient to break bone. Candy cried out in pain and slumped to the floor. "Doesn't it hurt like hell?" Alex inquired, observing Candy's teary eyes, her impaired vision, and the blood staining her face. Eyes all teared up, can't see, can't breathe, blood all over, works every time. "Why did you hit me?" Candy cried out. "Because I could," he retorted, his phone still recording. Not all of the situation was in his favor, but he believed he had enough to justify his actions. Recalling the advice of the MSGT, Alex surveyed the room. "Make up your mind when you can act and don't move until it's right. But once you do, commit everything and don't stop until there ain't no one moving but you." Apart from Zach whimpering in the corner and Candy struggling to stem the flow of blood from her nose, he was the only one in motion. "You saved another one. Top," he thought. "Doesn't seem like you, lover boy. And Mr. Zach will be in any condition to pitch on Monday. Tough luck missing out on all those millions and big bonuses," Alex remarked. "Oh well, I wonder what Nate's going to say when he finds out." Although he intended to call 911, he hesitated. He knew involving the police would limit his opportunity to question Candy. Moving toward her, he knelt beside her as she pressed a dish towel to her face. "Pinch the bridge of your nose with your thumb and index finger. Like this," he instructed, demonstrating the proper technique. As the adrenaline rush subsided, Alex suddenly felt drained of energy, collapsing heavily into a seat opposite Candy. Where had his wife gone? The woman sitting across from him was not the same person he saw every day. Once again, he wondered how she had managed to deceive him so thoroughly for so long. Was it worth it? He asked. Candy looked at him and shook her head. It could have been, she said. If you had just gone along, we were so close. After Monday, I would have been on my way to the executive suites. This will set me back. I can fix it, but it will set me back. So that's all you had in mind. Becoming a VP, Alex said. What about us? The cheating, the lying, would that just continue? Alex, you're so naive, Candy replied. Ben knew that. He told me your black and white ethics and Boy Scout views would hold me back if I let them. He said I had to break out of your control and be my own woman if I wanted to be a success. Did he tell you that before or after he made you a maintenance person on the team? Alex asked. As if you knew the half of it, she spat. Oh, I tried to be the good girl engineer and do all those things that you said would enhance my career. Do you want to know what really works? Alex remained silent, his phone still recording. Well, I'll tell you, my loving husband, all those things you told me weren't working. I was busting my butt making sure all my assignments were on time and budget, and all that got me was a few attitudes. It wasn't until Leona took me aside that I learned what a woman really needed to do to get ahead. Believe me, a bet on the way to the top works, and it's much easier and more fun. So this has been going on even before Ben showed up? Alex asked. Oh, for a smart engineer, you can be awfully slow sometimes, Alex, she said. It was at the Christmas party the next year after I joined Chromerica that I served Nate for the first time, and never looked back. Wait, you're sleeping with the boss too? Nate Vandell, Alex asked incredulously. Yes, Alex, Nate, Ben, Zach, anyone on the team that could help me with my career. Even now, you think you have it all figured out. We told Nate where we were going when we headed over here. Right now, he's getting the rest of the team rounded up. They'll be given a cover story about our absence. They'll have to make the pitch without us, but I think the extra effort we put in with their purchasing managers will pay off. Do I really want to hear this? He thought. Oh, what the hell? Why not? Alex prodded. You always were a go-getter, Candy. It was so easy. I don't even want to call it an effort, she laughed. It was so easy at the bidders conference with the men that we had to get more creative with Molly, the token woman on the selection committee. Funny how I can even seduce a woman, but I had to involve old man Ben to do it. She was situationally bi-curious, and given the promises that we'd start working together after the contract was finalized, yeah, we got a selection committee. Why all this then? I mean, if it's all greased, why the strong-arm stuff? Alex asked. That was Ben's idea, the dumbass. I told him to chill, that I'd come home, make you happy with something, and be back in time to catch a plane. But he had to go to Alpha. Look what that got us. So now, instead of being the face of a winning team, I'll be back to pleasing Nate. Like I said, fixable, but it will set me back. You wouldn't have bought me so cheap, he said. Maybe not, Candy replied, but I still would have made the flight. Well, you sure as hell ain't making that flight now, he said. Remembering how Ben seemed so clued in, he figured that Candy had to have a transmitter with her. Nate, are you listening? I'm about to call the cops. I'm sure there's a handful of felonies involved here, and we haven't even begun to go down the rabbit trail of fraud. That's a federal contract, isn't it, Candy? Alex asked rhetorically. Yeah, the feds take a dim view of how, did you phrase it? Extra effort. I'm sure you have great lawyers and all, mate, but maybe there's an alternative. He let it hang. A moment later, Candy's cell phone rang, playing hail to the chief. Nate, she asked into the phone. Of course, I'll put you on speaker. Nate, first, let me apologize to you. Ben's actions were a gross lapse of judgment. I can assure you the board will deal with him assertively. Thank you, Nate. That is a load off my mind. Glad to see that you and the board take assault and fraud so seriously, Alex interjected. Alex, these are all very unfortunate allegations. Lawyers will get rich, but no one really wants to rock the boat. We may pay a fine. Ben and Zach get some community service, but in the end, you will be divorced and poorer by half. Nate explained in a businesslike manner. Do I hear an or in this tale, Nate? Alex asked. Candy always said you were the cleverer of the two. Still, I'm happier to have hired Candy. Yes, Alex, there most decidedly is an or, Nate continued. Alex, we, Cromerica, have displaced you in your wife's affections, and when you found out about this and questioned it, you were treated in a most shabby manner. Most shabby. Shocking, Alex interjected. Alex, Nate continued, in lieu of calling the cops, as you put it, suppose instead that we could come to an agreement. I just sent a snap to Candy's phone. While not me, one of my tech boys here. They tell me that they disappear after viewing. Have a peek. Perhaps that might restore some goodwill. Candy opened the snap and turned the phone to Alex. He saw the words Bank of Grand Cayman and a number. A very large number. And when would that be deposited? Alex asked. It's already there, Alex. You have an email with the account number. This has been a very bad day for you, Alex. This may be a hard decision for you to make, and I don't discount the emotion. Candy is a very desirable woman. Be that as it may, however, one can't take emotion to the bank, can one? Nate agreed, affecting an upper-crust clipped manner of speech. Cromerica will cover the costs of your divorce. You can never reconcile. I think we all recognize that. Candy will file. She will ask for her personal belongings and her retirement. He contemplated for a moment before responding. On one hand, he could stand on principle and expose the whole sordid mess, letting the chips fall where they may. On the other hand, he could simply walk away. Nate had just given him 5 million reasons to do just that. Does Cromerica have a medical staff, Nate? Alex inquired. Yes, Alex. I believe we have some physicians on retainer, Nate replied. Good. Alex said, you better load a few into a limo and send them over here to pick up your team. We are in agreement then, Nate asked. Candy who? Alex retorted. Precisely. Nate agreed. Are we done, Alex? Nate asked. Goodbye, Nate, Alex said, ending the call. Alex put away his phone and turned off the recording app before slipping it back into his pocket. I knew you would see it our way, Alex. We can still be friends, friends with benefits. When this is all over, Candy suggested, attempting to summon what she thought was her most winning smile. However, even her incandescent smile couldn't reverse the effects of her ruined nose. Her eyes were turning black, and dried blood trailed down from her nose to her chin. Alex found the sight somewhat comical and allowed himself a smile. Once again, Candy misinterpreted his smile for agreement and leaned in to kiss him. Alex swiftly put out his right hand to stop her. He cupped her face with his hand and pushed her back until she fell with a thump onto the couch. Either I hit you too hard or not hard enough. In what world would I want to kiss you, Candy? He stated firmly, looking down at her hurt expression. Take whatever you want, but have it out of here tomorrow, Alex said, walking toward the door. He paused next to Zach. Foot still hurt? He asked. Zach responded with a whine. Hell yeah, you bastard, it still hurts. Without another word, Alex delivered a swift kick to Zach's groin, causing him to curl up in pain and moan. Moving on to Ben, who had managed to sit up, Alex reassured him. I'm not gonna hit you, Ben. Ben smiled, but his smile vanished as Alex's foot made contact with his testicles. Ben rolled onto his side in agony, and Alex walked out. He climbed into his car, unsure of his destination, but knowing that food and shelter were essential. After grabbing a burger from a nearby takeout place, he checked into a Red Roof Inn, just outside of town, near the freeway, and fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. Despite the aches and pains from numerous confrontations, Alex woke early the next morning and dragged his weary body out of bed. He prepared some motel room coffee when his phone chimed, signaling a new message. It was a text from the number. He opened it immediately. "Sorry for yesterday. I can meet. TGIF at the mall, noonish. I'll wave you over to seats at the bar. I'll be there." Alex texted back before pouring the lukewarm brown water from the coffee maker's carafe into a paper cup. "Yep, I'll be there," he thought as he set up his laptop. Back in college, long before he had met Candy, Alex had an economics professor who advocated having at least one offshore account for a rainy day fund. With his professor's help, he soon became the owner of a brand new bank account in the Cayman Islands. It was his DAMU fund, created as a safety net for unforeseen circumstances. Over the years, he had diligently added to it whenever possible, and now he was proud to have close to $50,000 in his account. Well, his DAMU fund was about to get a major boost. Alex accessed the secure websites of both banks. With his passcode and a series of keystrokes, he transferred the bulk of Cromerica's payment into his personal account, leaving $100,000 in the original account. After completing the transactions, he took a shower, changed clothes, and got ready to head out to meet the mystery texter. Entering TGIF just after noon, Alex spotted a man waving him over. The man appeared to be around Alex's age, well-dressed and handsome. Alex approached him cautiously. "I think you sent me a text," he said as he took a seat. "I'm sorry for the way it turned out. I don't know if there was any clean way to tell you," the stranger began. "Why don't you start with who you are and your connection to Candy?" Alex replied, keeping his guard up. "I was on the team," the man began. "I left the army after 8 years. I got wounded in action and had a long recovery and was medically discharged. I joined Cromerica about 6 months ago. I was assigned to Ben's team about 3 months ago. I was telling a friend about the job and mentioned that I was working for Candy. When he asked for her full name, we discovered that we had a mutual friend, and he asked me to watch out for Candy as a favor. At first, everything was great. I was welcomed warmly to the team. It didn't take long to find out why," he continued. "Candy approached me about 2 months in. She is extremely attractive and, compelling, but when I asked her about her ring, she just smiled and told me you were okay with it. I wasn't and said so. That started the deep freeze. After I turned her down, I got all the shit assignments, and nothing but grief from Ben. I called our mutual friend back and told him about Candy approaching me. He told me about you and that he thought that pimping your wife for pay seemed out of character for the man he knew. He thought there was more to it than Candy let on, and that you needed to know. Ben sent me the pic when they were trying to get me on board with the team, kind of a prize I could expect if I went along. Let's just say that I don't agree with their methods. I guess I'm a straight arrow. I resigned yesterday and sent you the text." "Our friend?" Alex asked. "Terry Baker." "If I hadn't met Terry," he replied, then stopped a moment before he went on. "Let's just say he helped me out of a scrape when I was a green LT. I owe him a favor or two." "Don't we both?" Alex agreed. "What are you going to do?" the stranger asked. "Nate kind of laid it all out for me. I could get the cops involved, and yes, Zach and Ben, and even Candy would have some legal problems, but with his lawyers it would all end up as a bump in the road. We made a deal. You might think I'm selling out, and maybe you're right in a way, but they stole the only thing I had that was irreplaceable. If I can't make them pay legally, well, at least I can make them pay. It won't bring Candy back, but I think I may find she's less irreplaceable than I thought. I have a trip planned. Tell Terry thanks for everything. I won't be going back to work." "What about you?" Alex asked finally. "Well, Terry always spoke highly of Baxter Incorporated. Now that you're gone, they may just need another engineer. I think you'll find they do business a bit differently at Baxter, maybe more to your liking. Challenging, but the fringe benefits won't compare to what Candy's team was offering. Alex smiled. I think I can live with that. The stranger rose. Alex did likewise. They simply nodded to each other and left without a further word. On Monday, Alex had just checked in for his flight to Costa Rica. Tamarindo will be a nice place to decompress for a while, he thought. He was making his way towards security and saw a mailbox just up ahead. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope addressed to the DOJ, Washington, D.C. Inside was a thumb drive of the recording. They might be interested. Who knows? He thought. Maybe Nate's lawyers aren't as good as he thinks. He dropped the envelope in the box and walked into the security line. Epilogue. 9 months later. Alex sat at his usual table in the cafe. Nicole, lovely as always, brought him his cerveza. Thank you, dear, he said as he raised the bottle to his lips. He had received mail. Still holding the envelope, he examined it. No return address. He wondered who had found him. He hadn't gone through elaborate steps to stay hidden, but locating him in a little town on the Pacific coast of northern Costa Rica would have required resources beyond the ordinary. His first thought was Nate's people had found him. The envelope had been sitting at his house for 2 days. He was fairly certain it wasn't a bomb, yet one couldn't be too careful. Travis. Alex called out to the owner of the cafe. Tienes tus cuchillo. Si, Sinner Alex. Travis handed over the envelope, and Alex took a few steps back. Can never be too careful, he thought as Travis cut open the envelope. He handed it back to Alex, who thanked him. Alex took another pull from his beer bottle and turned the envelope. He handed it back to Alex, who thanked him. Alex took another pull from his beer bottle and turned the envelope over. Several sheets of paper fell onto the table. He picked up a note. Thought you would find this interesting. That was all the note said, and instead of a signature, there was a phone number. The number. Terry would have the resources to find him, he thought. I can live with that. He flipped the other piece of paper over. It was a copy of a newspaper article with a picture. The photo showed Ben, Zach, Candy, and Leona being led out of the Cromerica building in handcuffs. The headline for the article read, 4 indicted in multi-million-dollar procurement fraud. He smiled. Maybe Nate's lawyers aren't everything he thought they were, he said to himself, a habit he picked up since his Spanish was weak and English wasn't widely spoken. He liked to hear English conversation, even if it was just him talking to himself. Nickel, ultra cerveza por favor, he said as he held up his empty bottle. Say, Mr. Alex. Gracias, Nickel, he said as he accepted his beer, took a swallow, and looked out at the deep blue Pacific. Candy who?